Let's quickly talk about relative and absolute cell reference. When it comes to relative and absolute cell reference, they control how cell references behaves when copying formula. On a normal standard way, when we're writing our formulas, we must have the equals to sign coming first while we have our function and our argument. So let's quickly work on how relative cell references behaves. So when it comes to relative cell references, let's assume we want to do equals to and we want to reference everything in H2. So we want to reference H2 alone. So you can see how it does. So it is going to give us H2, and if you drag it down, you can see it's going to reference other things like H3. So it's going to go because it does not it changes automatically. So automatically it's going to reference H3, it's going to reference, if you go down, it's going to reference H4 until H21. But when it comes to absolutes, so what you should know that relative is dynamic, that is to say it changes automatically, while absolute is static. So when it comes to absolutes, let's do the same thing. One thing you should understand that relative absolute carries the dollar sign. So when you have a dollar sign in your cell references, that is actually the absolute. So let's do something like this. Uh, H equals to H and let's say H1, H2. So you can see how it is. Then let's see if there's going to be any changes once we drag it down. So you can see how it is. So there's no changes at all. So it is actually static. So instead of changing to H3 here, it is still the same H2, right? So if you write a formula here and say equals to H2 plus high 2. So you see the difference. You see that this one is relative. So it changes, so it refers to back to H3, it refers back to H4, it refers back to, and so on and so forth. But let's now do equals to dollar sign H dollar sign again 2 plus dollar sign high dollar sign again 2, and let's drag it down. So you see it's static. It's not referencing, it's not changing its reference position. So it's not changing its reference position. It just gives us the normal way our formula is from the onset. So that is the difference between you can see one is static, one is dynamic. So, but we can also have a mixed cell reference. A mixed cell reference is like this. Let's assume I want to say dollar sign A1, right? Dollar sign, okay, dollar sign H2, or okay, sorry, equals to dollar sign H2. So you see what this one will do. It bring it down. You see that it will still change automatically, right? Now let's do dollar sign, or let's do equals to H dollar sign 1, dollar sign 2, right? You see that this one will remain static. Why did we have something like that? So if you check something here, if you check this one, you are saying let only the header, let only this elder, that is the column, be let only the column be static, while the rows be dynamic. That is to say, the rows can actually change, while columns will be static. So if you are referring it back to, maybe you want to do a straight line, you notice the fact that that particular part will be static. The column will be static. So if you here we said let the column be dynamic while the row, let the row be static. So you can see the difference between here and here. One is saying let the row be dynamic while the column will be static, while one is saying let the row be static while the column will be dynamic. So we are using both the absolute and the relative reference together here. So you can see the difference between the relative reference and the absolute reference. So, and you can see how you can mix them together to give you a mixed reference. So let's talk about how you can troubleshoot data list error. Troubleshooting data list error. So data list error is one of the common issues and fixes when we are working with data list or tables. So in a situation, let's delete this. So in a situation whereby you have a data like this, so how do you troubleshoot your data list? How do you check if there is an error? That is why we say, how do you troubleshoot your data list error? If there is an error, if there's something that might actually negate our worksheets not to work properly, not to have a very good shape or something. So one of the things that you must consider is blank rows or columns. The first thing you check is if you are having a blank rows or if you are having a column, or blank row or a blank columns. So let's assume we are having something like this. Let's insert. So we have having something like this and we're having something like this. Let me do something like this. Let's insert. So you can see our data is not looking very well. Why? Our data is looking tattered because we're having blank column and also blank row. You can actually have a blank row while we don't have the blank column. So one thing you need to do is just to remove the extra blank column. Like this, there's nothing we need it for. We need to just delete it. And this, there's nothing we need it for. We just need to delete it. So you can see our data is in perfect shape, right? So also another thing you need to check is inconsistent data type. So in a situation whereby you're having numbers stored as text, or maybe you're having inconsistency in your day or something that is not working perfectly well. So what do you need to do? What you need to do is you need to convert those data type back to the appropriate data type. So we've actually done how you can convert data type, a number store as text or anything, maybe data type of a number store as text, or maybe how you can do for date and some others. We've done that. So I'll still try and show you how you can do that. So in a situation whereby this column is actually in tests. So I said to you that when you have tests, text is always aligned uh, to the left, while what's it called? Uh, Numbers are aligned to the right, right? So if you have something like this, let me try and expand this and expand this. So you notice the fact that these are numbers, right? And these are already actually functioning as a test, right? What do you need to do is just come here, down here, select it and go back and say you want to format as number. So directly you formatted this as number and it is working perfectly. So in a situation whereby maybe you have some other errors, maybe it is dates or anything, so you need to do what we call of data type formatting. You need to format your inconsistent data type to the correct ones. Another thing is when you have duplicated entries. So in a situation whereby you have duplicated entries, what are you going to do? So let's assume that these are duplicated entries. So let me just say, let me drag this down. So let's assume we have like something like this in your entry in your data set. What do you need to do? So you need to, one thing, remove duplicates. You need to remove duplicates. So select the entire part and go to data, then come to this remove duplicates and click on it. Then we can remove duplicates. So how do you do remove duplicates? So since you've done the entire sheet, then you do remove duplicates. Basically, you can use name. So basically, you can use name. Basically, okay, let's quickly check this. So if you check here, there's no duplicates here because of uh, this is changing because of the formula we use here. We say multiply by plus 4. So because of the formula we use here, there's no, and also here too, there's no duplicate. So let's quickly adjust that. Let's just adjust that. So we are trying to adjust this. And same thing here, let's just adjust it. Okay, let's just adjust this too. Let's try and adjust this and this and this. So now we've adjusted this and let's remove the duplicates now. So once you come here and you click remove duplicates, it will give you, it will look for all the duplicated value. Like you can see 4 duplicate value found and removed, 20 unique value remain. Note that the counts may include empty cells. So we don't have empty now. These are empty. We don't have any empty cells again. So that is how you can do remove duplicated entries. Another thing is you have to check wrong cell references. So in a situation whereby you are referencing a wrong cell, you might actually maybe I want to say this equals to some comma or let's say some or something let's find something. Let's reference one thing that is not working. Let's say you have a formula error. Maybe I want to reference something, an entry. Uh, okay, let's do something like this. Equals to I plus H2. So you can see something like this. I say name error. Why is it saying name error? Because I've not written my cell references correctly, instead of saying hi 1 or hi 2, I just say hi. So that is why you have to check if you have imputed a wrong cell references. Another thing you need to also understand when you're working with the data is when you have the match cells. So assuming I have something like this, uh, Aju, 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 then I have something like this, 10, 20, 30. So in a situation whereby I have Aju, 10, 20, 30, then I notice the fact that this one, they are the same, then I decide to match the cells together. So let's assume we have match cells like this. One thing when you're working with data, when you're troubleshooting the data list is that you have to return that data, that match data cell back to a proper way. That is to say, you have to unmatch that particular data set that has been matched, you have to unmatch it. So what you need to do is unmatch the data sets, and then you can just click here to return the normal way. So that is how you can troubleshoot data list error in Excel.